All right.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sonia. And of course, thank you to NIN University for this platform today. We are quite excited to be here. And the topic is, of course, focusing on students and students' role in raising the right kind of awareness for integrity against contract cheating. It is, I think, paramount importance that we bring students into this conversation early. So I'm really grateful to NI and to Uppsala for actually starting their Academic Integrity Week with this session itself. So that tells us, yes, we do accept that students are important, and you guys are one of the most important part of the conversation that we are having this week across the world about contract cheating and about academic integrity. My name is Zenith. I am from the University of Wollongong in Dubai. I'm an assistant professor, and of course, my absolute passion is academic integrity and anything to do with students and integrity. So I will jump in and introduce the student speakers that we have today with us. I will start off with Miranda. She's from the Kanakel University in Turkey. She is currently pursuing a PhD in English language teaching. She's originally from Kosovo, and she's moved to Turkey in the 90s. We also have with us Laima. She is from the Riga Technical University in Latvia, and she is pursuing an intellectual, more robotized systems master's. So very interesting, very different from Miranda, as you can see, of course. We also have with us Athar, who is currently pursuing his Bachelor of Commerce in Accounting from University of Wollongong in Dubai. So we've got students from Europe and slightly from beyond joining us at the panel. So welcome to, of course, all of you guys. I would like to just open the floor and welcome each of you and ask you to just introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself, Miranda.
Thank you. Well, my journey as a student has been quite long. So it started in Yugoslavia, in former Yugoslavia, and now it's continuing still in Turkey for very long years. I am one of the examples maybe of the lifelong learners in this society. So, and I've learned in different contexts, and I've seen different contexts of teaching and learning at the same time. So, I finished my BA degree at the University of Pristina, but prior to that, also a college of teacher training in Prizren. And then I moved to Istanbul, finished my MA degree in Istanbul. And then there was a break of a long time until I decided to do my PhD. And this break has to do a lot with, circumstances that are related to academic integrity, how producing original work is something different, and how to do that you have to be able as a learner to face all the preparedness and to take necessary steps before you decide to do so. Because sometimes as learners, we jump into learning without not being aware of what we're doing. But then there are moments in our life when we say, now I want to do something and I want to do it for real. So the PhD has come to my life in that sort of a stance. So I'm also a teacher. So I move from learner's shoes to teacher's shoes quite often. And this is also another, I think, advantage that I've had in my life as a professional, but as a who learns all the time, who has the opportunity to learn and to improve. And I teach in Bursa Technical University, but I've had a wide experience of teaching learners of all ages. Now I teach university students, and I'm a university student as well. So that's more or less about me.
I think it's quite exciting because you're going to bring to the conversation quite a variety of angles because you yourself are personally going through, with all these changes in the roles that you are currently playing every day. So it's going to be exciting, definitely, to talk to you. So welcome to the panel.
Thank you.
Laima, a little bit about yourself, please.
Okay, hello, my name is Laima. I'm from Latvia, and currently I'm studying robotics. I'm continuing the same program as bachelor's, but also I have a bit experience in teaching because when I finished my high school, when I was 18, I started to teach in 3 different schools, electronics and Lego robotics. But then I understood that I would like to have more experience on technical side to learn more about robotics and electronics. So I quit that job and focused more on the studies and professional environment. And also I like arts because half of my family are artists. I try to combine it in my master's. And I also um, like table hockey. I'm quite professional in that, playing in Latvia team. And but in overall, I'm interested in living in a world where people are doing their job honestly and correctly. That's why I try to help in academic integrity topic if it's possible.
Awesome. Look at that variety. Oh my gosh. And it's nice to see because we've got Miranda who's bringing in the experience as a teacher and as a PhD student, and then we've got Lima. You're with you're doing your postgrad masters. We've also got, of course, Athar. We've got Dionysus who's joined. So I'll come to Dionysus in a moment. Welcome, Dionysus. So Athar, you are currently pursuing UG in BCom in accounting. Could you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Good afternoon, everyone. So I am in my final year at my university now. I've been here for 3 years, so I think I just have a couple of more semesters to go, and I'll officially be a BCom accounting graduate. It's time has literally just flown from the time I started university, and I think it's really good. I've had a really good experience, and looking at it from my perspective, I've actually been a very active student from my schooling years. So coming to university was like a big opportunity to try and do everything and anything that's there. So I know, and academic integrity, being a part of this team was one such thing, because to be honest, I haven't been such a part of such team when I was in my schooling years. So the exposure here is more there's a lot of things to learn from it, and obviously it's a very good experience to be with such people who come from different backgrounds and who actually do different things in their careers, just focused on academic integrity and honesty as such. So it's a really good experience for me, and I'm looking forward to a very good discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Athar, darling. Dionysus is from the Diri American University in Greece, and you're currently pursuing your undergraduate. So jump in and give us a quick intro about yourself, Dionysus.
Hello, everyone. I'm very happy to be part of this panel discussion. My name is Dionysis. I am a Greek student in the American College of Greece. I'm actually a senior student. I'm studying psychology, and I've actually been very much engaged with topics around academic integrity for the last 2 years, especially due to the excellent contribution of one of my professors, Dr. Litsa Mourelatos, who is the person who actually engaged me with this subject. I'm actually a member of the International Center for Academic Integrity Student Steering Committee this year, and I'm one of the 2 co-leaders. So this presented to me an excellent opportunity to promote academic integrity globally, apart from promoting it in my college and in Greece. So yes, I'm very happy to be part of this panel. I'm looking forward to a wonderful discussion with all of you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And again, welcome to the panel. I'm quite excited that you guys took time out of your busy schedules to be here and share your experiences. So the topic, as I'd mentioned, we are looking at student champions, but more specifically, we're looking at integrating students into the dialogue and conversation about academic integrity. And what we had briefing sessions before, and what we decided was that, yes, we do, of course, everybody thinks it's important, but what does tend to happen is we talk to students, we talk around students, we talk over students, but rarely do we actually include students in the real conversation where decisions are being made, and the decisions have, of course, have impact on the students. So it is so crucial to actually have students as part of the conversation. So before I go ahead, I would like to do a quick poll with the audience to see what the audience thinks about student champions and student voice being represented in the conversation. So if you just give me a moment, I will share the link with everybody. There's a link on the chat. If everybody could just click on it, it's a quick one. It asks you a quick question. Student voice is represented in conversation about academic integrity. Strongly agree, neutral, disagree, or strongly disagree. Everybody took a minute to put that in. Okay, I'm going to share my screen at this stage. So you can see how the audience feels about that. And it's a little mixed, but we do have more neutral and disagrees than strongly agree and agree, right? We do want more representation, but currently I do think this is a fair outlook on how currently all the conversations are really happening. So this is in a way why we wanted to have this conversation, and have students in the panel to discuss what you guys thought about the conversations that go on around the policies that come in, and how we can drive this forward and make sure students are made into integral parts of the conversation in and around academic integrity. So what I would like to do probably is start right off the cuff and ask you guys to jump in and tell me. So a little bit, you guys have told me what you guys do about academic integrity, but maybe let's go right at the beginning and start what intrigued you guys to even look at integrity, because I think except for Miranda, everybody else is from very different backgrounds. Education, teaching is something where you want to be able to focus on integrity for sure. But when you're learning robotics and when you're doing commerce and when you're doing business, why integrity? What kind of sparked that interest in you guys? Dionysus, maybe I'll start with you because you mentioned a little bit about Dr. Litsa and how she kind of inspired you. So could you tell us a little bit more about that and what all you've actually been doing with integrity?
Yes, actually, 2 years ago, it was the first time I participated in the International Day of Action Against Contract Cheating. Professor Litsa Morelatos actually approached me because I knew her from a class of mine, and she knew that I was a person that was really engaged with the subject. We actually collaborated with other DRE students, and I took part in a theatrical installation and created 2 videos to showcase the work that our college has been doing regarding the promotion of academic integrity. These videos actually were a huge success and were used in different conferences around the globe. Ms. Morelatos actually took them and showcased our work. And we actually received wide praise because the students at DRE had really fantastic ideas regarding, creative ways to promote academic integrity. After that, in 2019, I actually created more videos to showcase our work and promote academic integrity. And I actually, in a collaboration between the Psychology Society of my college, I was the president actually of the society, along with the Student Academic Support Services, which is a service at our college that actually helps students academically in a peer-to-peer manner. We created a board game to promote academic integrity. Yes. It was a very creative one. We actually used the game created by GSM London as a base. So kudos to them as well. And actually this game was used in different competitions, and we actually won some prizes on that. And this year, actually, Ms. Morelatos actually told me if I wanted to become a member of the International Center for Academic Integrity Student Steering Committee. This is a committee comprised of about 20 students from all over the world. And we have actually collaborated very closely up until now, and we have created promotional material to promote this year's International Day of Action Against Contract Cheating. Videos, you can find it on the YouTube channel of the ICAI. And also we are thinking of doing some other things, which I'm not going to say right now because we keep them as a secret, so as to promote academic integrity. And we also took part in the international competition with a video we created that we hope that is going to be used in future iterations of the International Day of Action. From what I told you, basically the person who inspired me to act in such a very engaged way, let's say, is Professor Litsa Morelatos. And I have to thank her for that. And I feel that all of you must have been blessed by such a person during your lives, because, this is a very interesting topic. And sometimes we need some, I was not a very social student a few years ago. So, she gave me the necessary push to become a leader in this domain, actually. And one thing that not many people know, or people who are not from Greece actually, is that this is a huge problem. Contract cheating is a huge problem in Greece. In public universities, this happens all the time, and there are no punishments whatsoever. and this is very, very wrong.
Right.
Believe me that a year ago, actually, 100 students from Patras is the third largest Greek city, presented the exact same paper to their professor, and they had not even changed their names. So that professor got 100 papers with the same name, and no one did anything. They just went during next semester and gave a new papers, and everything was fine. So you see, this is a huge problem here in Greece, and that is why we're trying to do so much to prevent it.
Right. I think it's a problem everywhere, right? Some of us have the courage to say it's a problem. Some of us avoid it and look the other way and say it isn't a problem. But I do agree that it is a problem, I think. But it's amazing to hear your journey itself, because you're saying you were not very social, and from that you've now become like a student leader, and you guys are initiating so many wonderful campaigns around the work that you do. Now, when you do these events on campus, what kind of response do you get from the other students?
During the beginning of these initiatives, we did not have much support in terms of the students, but actually we approached our friends, and then our friends approached their friends as well. So, from person to person, this became a large movement, and I'm truly happy about this.
Good. Okay, now we will move.
And by the end of the day, of the college, 1,000 students participating.
Wow, that's an amazing number. So we move to Atharv. Same thing, Atharv. Just tell us what's because you said in your introduction that you didn't really look at academic integrity when you guys were in school, and then when you moved to university, you got introduced to it. So what pulled you to think it was okay to work with a topic like academic integrity?
I mean, generally, if I look back at how my schooling life has been all these years, I'm going to be really honest. I mean, the way we used to do projects in school is just where you sit together as a group, you work on it, you go to Wikipedia, search information, and that's your project is ready. So, I mean, when I stepped into the university, it was a completely different atmosphere because everyone did things differently. The functioning of the report submission, or the way you approach your reports, the way you write your reports, it was completely different. And I realized this initially in my very first semester when I joined, because we had different kinds of assignments. We had note-making assignments, we had reports, we had presentations. So the only thing I noticed was that I had joined with a few of my friends from school, so we really knew each other really well. But what changed was that I was the one who was actually very, I was the one who kind of initiated a plan. Okay, let's do the assignments this way, let's perform this way, let's write my assignment this way. So everyone saw that. I think they were impressed by it, and they came up to me and saying, could you help us do this? Could you help us do that? And I'm all in for helping. But again, it later increases to they came and asked me, just send me your assignment. I'll probably change a few things here and there, and then even I'll upload it because I have less time to do it. So that's where it struck me that, I have been putting in hours and hours of work for getting this done, getting it in my way. And if I just give it to somebody else and they just change a few things here and there, it wouldn't make that much sense. Even though they get the accomplishment and they get the marks, I don't get the feeling that, I was the one who did the work, and I don't want him to just, take the credit for it as such. My efforts are kind of wasted in that. So that's where I noticed that, academic integrity and doing things on your own is such an important topic. And that's when I started drifting towards it. I mean, I'm not saying I started helping my friends a bit less, but I was a bit different in my approach. I mean, I used to assist them with things, but not exactly lead them to where I was leading. I was like, I'm going to give you a nudge, just try and think about it from your perspective and then reach towards the end. So that was my way of doing it. And again, as I told you before as well, I was very active in my university years. For the past 2 years I've been here, and I was organizing events, I was being part of events. So that's how I met Dr. Zeenat as well. Initially, we worked together for one event. And I mean, the way we worked together, the chemistry between us when we were understanding things from each other, the requirements, the accomplishments, everything just gelled in so well that one fine day, Dr. Zeenat just approached me saying, I have an event plan. Do you mind helping me with it? And I was all in, because I was like, okay, I knew Dr. Zeenat was really a big personality in the university. She's done so many things. She's achieved so much. So I was like, it's going to be a great opportunity. And I just went for it. And that's how me and Dr. Zeenat started working together for academic integrity in the university. And just last year as well, me and one of my friends had planned events for a university for the week of action against academic misconduct. And that's when we had an event. So that's how I got roped into all of this. I'm really happy to be a part of it.
It's so interesting how you shared your personal experience as a student right? And sometimes that's something that like kind of sets off like a light bulb, that hey, I'm willing to help my friends, of course, but there has to be a line that we draw, right? And coming from students will listen to that, as long as we are talking about it, irrespective of how nicely, how in a cool manner we talk, we are still preaching at the end of the day, right? Because we are teachers, we are on the other side. But the moment a student comes and says, hey, wait a minute, I'm not going to be really doing this work for you. You need to start thinking about, they do listen, right? And that's where your role then becomes really so important. Thank you so much. Lima, tell us about your experience with academic integrity.
Okay, my experience started when I was planning to do my thesis in bachelor's. I tried to find a supervisor because I wanted to do the work quite early, but many of them were busy and they said, that, oh, just wait until the deadline and maybe then. And then one of our professors, Alla, Anoche Naumetsa, she, for the first of all, she was kind of like role model. I looked at her like role model of teachers because she did everything exactly how I was expecting from the teachers. Plus, she took academic integrity really seriously because she had those rules in the classroom, and she was one of few professors who actually took the consequences if something happened, and quite serious consequences.
Mm-hmm.
And she invited one student to help in projects. It was early in September, so 1 year almost before we need to submit the thesis, which is quite early. And she said that will we have like opportunity to work in international projects, and I straight away applied, and then I prepared the documents for Latvian language. And meantime, I helped to create the usability criteria for the project because in the project we were researchers from 7 different countries preparing documents in 8 different languages, and then we tested more systems, but in the results we combined the results of 15 different systems, which tend to check the plagiarism or find some similar text matches.
Right.
And so I did work for that, which is quite maybe far from robotics if you look at that way, because it was the main problem in the beginning. I went to my dean to get his approval that I can actually do this, because in robotics they see that we should build some robots or something like that, or programs. But he said that, well, if you do enough of like result analysis, then it's fine for bachelors. So I did that, and then there was a conference in the same autumn in Latvia. I went to that conference as well. Then I met a few people from NI, and I also submitted one paper for results in Latvian language. Then I helped a bit for the overall paper and did some work for Deborah in Berlin University, and that's how I kind of jumped into.
Wow, very different from Athar and Dionysus actually. While they've actually been doing a lot more with students and doing awareness campaigns, yours has come from a whole different angle, which is research, right? And that is another angle where we need to have students involved. So when you guys are actually doing that work, when you guys are doing the analysis, automatic awareness increases within you about the topics that you're reading, about the papers you're writing, because you have to do a literature review, you have to read up on what other people are saying. And then when you go to this conference and you meet other people and you talk to them, and you realize, wow, it's not just something our teachers talk about, it's something everybody is talking about, right? That's fantastic. Has that led to you talking to your friends about academic integrity at any point during your experience with the research?
Yeah, and moreover with thesis, because I was looking for famous plagiarism cases, and then I found out that some famous singers, which I liked, have copied almost all songs. For example, Ed Sheeran as well, and then I checked the songs, and they're really similar. And I checked, that there are some people who, just copied their theses and got the
Yes.
diploma, and we have some cases in like with ministers in some countries as well, because if you copy, then it's like not your diploma, and I think the same on
Absolutely.
some laboratory works because you haven't earned it. And I really do not like it because okay, diploma is not so important in IT, but it can open some doors. And
Yes.
if the key is diploma and it's not your key, then it's not quite
Not the
honest
door
that
you should be
they're there.
opening. Absolutely. Thank you so much for that experience. Miranda, you're up next. And again, very different, I know already, from everybody else's experience. Go for it. We want to hear you.
Yes, so my experience is probably different and similar in many ways, but it has to do with the circumstances in our life that at a large proportion may not be in our favor as students. We may not, for example, we may not have enough financial means to enjoy the beauty of student life and to go, uh, as per se, or so we may not be in rush to finish and to start working and making money, or we may be working while studying, again deprived of the time to do more study, or our society may be in some sort of trouble. And this was the case with me, probably as someone from Kosovo. I like the trouble we had in Balkans and in the recent past. Or nowadays we even have the COVID-19, which is another circumstance that may cause some sort of problems that we will face in the future. But none of that is an excuse for neglecting our work or for plagiarizing or cutting back from school. There is no excuse for trying. So when I was a student, I kind of wasn't aware of this because we were trying to survive in a sort of literal meaning of the word, by doing home. We were homeschooled. We were doing schooling in at homes. We were not allowed to do to go into the buildings. So there was a lot of supervision from other countries. So this was an excitement for us, just getting day by day and being able to go to school to do some work. And we were not so occupied with the quality of the work, to be honest. It was more about doing that work and bringing it to the end. But then when all of that was finished and I moved to another society, I came to Turkey, I realized that there are so many unseen details about that work, and that our journey as a learner is not about doing that only. So and it's about taking responsibility for those essentials, and for example, to take responsibility about plagiarism, about others plagiarizing, your self plagiarizing, and many other things. So for our own education, and to do that we have to commit and work hard. So my commitment came after the BA, to be honest, and when I pursued my master's degree. But as a student, I have failed many times, and that's why I have succeeded in my life. Before asking for help, we often have doubts, thinking it may be a sign of a weakness. But actually, with experience, we learn that strong people ask for help, and this is something that I have learned with experience, not immediately. And those who have courage actually to admit that they don't know, therefore we should be, in my opinion, we should be proactive rather than reactive. So with plagiarism, it's not about being reacting, trying it, and reacting to the punishment and so on. So this my experience as a learner has taught me that I need to be proactive. So being courageous and admitting that you don't know and that you want to learn is one of those steps. There are times when we are faced with the plagiarism as a concept and its consequences, yet we are not offered the tools or methods to avoid plagiarism, right? So for example, there are many students who are never taught how to use references to summarize or to paraphrase, to quote, to cite, and similar. But if we accept plagiarism as a known factor for the success of our work, we need to move away from being reactive to becoming proactive, right? So by being proactive, we plan our work we in such a way that we recognize the weaknesses, the areas we need to improve, and we take steps by asking our teachers, professors to improve those weaknesses. We plan our time effectively, and we are in charge of our learning. We voice our concerns and we ask for support. I think this is the sort of attitude that I have had in my life, that and as students we need to take towards plagiarism. And this brought me actually to Çanakkale University, Çanakkale 18 Mart University, because I chose this university because of the professors there, and in particular because of Professor Salim Razi, who was an expert in this field and advocating the standards against plagiarism in Turkey. And I felt that I could learn a lot from these professors there, and I could go on with finding a better version of myself in this professional work.
That's amazing. And in the way you guys are discussing your journey, it kind of also tells us where you are at education wise. It kind of shows us that because that self-actualization and maturity comes only after a certain amount of time you've spent in education sector, I'm guessing. So again, fantastic, Miranda, the angle that you've showed us. And you brought up a fantastic point about of course we want students to take responsibility, but students need that help to even realize that they need the help.
Yes, exactly.
Because they're coming from different backgrounds. And this is why I think student champions are so fantastic, because you're the ones who are able to bring this to the conversation and redirect our focus on where we need to look at so that we can help students. Just faculty sitting and researching and figuring this out we will eventually get there, but it takes us a lot longer to get there. It's a lot quicker if you've got students coming in and telling us, so tell us, where do you think we need the help? And you're right, that's first thing that students in fact tell us, is that we need you to teach us more about the different types of referencing you want, because different teachers might be asking for different things and we get confused when we go from one lecturer to the other. Right? This is something that comes out of students, because they're the ones attending different lectures. As a committee, we might not know what's happening in the actual class between different lecturers, right? I might be telling someone we will follow Harvard, whereas somebody who's from engineering might say we will follow IEEE. Somebody from somewhere else might say AAPA, depending on their field of study, right? We as a faculty, when we are sitting and doing research, or we're in a committee, we wouldn't know that there might actually possibly be different faculty in the same university even following different systems. So that's a fantastic point. So now going back, what we're going to do is I'm just going to quickly look at, I'm going to throw things at you to just talk about, for instance, policies, right? So when you hear universities talking about different policies in your space, could be your robotics program, Lima, or the accounts program that you're in, Athar, right? So whatever your space is, when you think about the policies that are existing, do you guys feel that it substantially includes students and student viewpoints? It doesn't necessarily have to be in your university, but just even generally, if you think about something like policies and procedures that are being put into place in different universities. Who would like to go first?
Okay. I
yes,
can go.
Lima.
Honestly, I haven't heard that students have been involved. I believe that if some students have initiative to take a part in that, they wouldn't reject, but I haven't heard that they would be inviting or taking students' opinions into that on the purpose.
Okay, all right. Anybody else? Athar?
Yeah, same. I mean, it's not that students are that involved in the process of what goes into making the policies or making sure that, plagiarism doesn't happen or contract cheating doesn't happen. It's only when in the later stages when the students come in, as in if there are any cases for plagiarism or contract cheating, that's when they come in. That's when, for example, if a student is caught as in he has high plagiarism in his project, that's when he comes in. That's when he explains his part as to what happened, why did he do so, and that's it. But then there's no involvement of students initially for the beginning of the policies.
Okay. Dionysus?
In my college, I haven't actually heard of any particular, situations where students actually contract cheated and they were caught. But, the good thing that our campus does is that the professors are always ready to listen to our suggestions and improve the already existing policies that are in effect, actually.
Mm.
And actually, we're planning on creating a small committee where students could participate and actually provide solutions or suggestions to improve the already existing policies. So I think this is something that your college has also done, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yeah,
And this could be a very nice recommendation to all universities and colleges out there.
absolutely. Miranda?
And well, I haven't been a witness to, seeing students, participating in building policies, writing policies, and constructing them, but more like later on. But my interest right now is how to include students, how to include learners like myself in the preparation of those policies. And this is one of the type of the research I would like to pursue, both here in Turkey and also in Kosovo, and see how that would have an impact on the attitude towards academic integrity in general, and towards plagiarism in particular, contract cheating. So yes, starting from my university, where we prep students for the academic studies by giving them an intensive program in English. This is a good way to kind of prep them for their academic studies by having them as participants, as co-constructors of the policy, and as stakeholders who actively participate in it.
And I think that's exactly it. If we manage to actually bring students into this conversation about, let's say, policies and procedures. Lima, you had said something the other day, which was very interesting, is then it gives us a perspective on why students do it. We know that. And we know it from a very research perspective, right? Like it's numbers on a survey, like how many students have said they don't have enough time, or there's peer pressure, or et cetera, et cetera. But when you actually have students vocally talking about it, right? And then you look at it from the perspective of the policy, I think it does make a difference. Would you like to just add to that?
Yeah, and also last week we have one professor which is speaking really fastly and going through process quickly, but I get the idea, and then the classmates are asking for my work. I sometimes send them, but sometimes not, because I did it and I want them actually to understand it, because then why they're here. And then I talked with one of the classmates, and he agreed that, yeah, she's just too quick. And then I said that, oh, then I can just say her to slow down a bit, to wait for us, and then the problem is solved. And then he said that, oh, yeah, actually. So, and then they would do the work on their own, and the problem is solved. But yeah, usually they do not talk about it. It's easier to ask for others' work.
And you're absolutely right. I think there is that, that barrier, invisible barrier that exists where students are not vocal. So I think if they're brought into this conversation more, and that's what Dionysus was talking about when we were discussing, I mentioned how at one year, what we did was we did a debate about the policy in our university. So we had the person who was the custodian of the policy at one end with faculty members, and we had students on the other end. And because they knew it was a safe space to talk about, they looked at the policy, they looked at words, and they said, this sounds really harsh for us coming from this background. We don't understand it, and things like that. And although we already knew and we had a feeling that, yes, our policy is amazing and it's educative, when we got this feedback from students, we realized, hey, wait a minute, we can actually work this around. And we are now at a stage where we are looking at the committee that we have for academic misconducts. We want to include student representatives from the student council to actually be a part of that committee, because as Dionys, you said, we need students to look at the case and tell us what their perspective is, right? Because no matter what it is, I've been a student, but it was a long time ago, right? Student life is changing, students obstacles and the things that you guys are facing is changing. And like, for instance, COVID-19, who knew how to handle this? We don't know. We ourselves are still struggling as lecturers and teachers, right? So we don't really know what students are facing. So it's definitely something, you're right, where we need to bring in that space. The other thing that I will jump into is this whole concept of equal opportunities, right? Because from my experience, what I've seen is we say we want education to be accessible to everybody, right? At the same time, we want to ensure that every student is actually being treated equally. Of course, students have to be treated equally, but here's the catch, right? Not all student comes from the same kind of background. of education or exposed to concepts of academic integrity. And a lot of the times, faculties or even policies fail to take that into consideration, right? Have you guys seen or experienced anything like this where you would see the importance of a student voice when it comes to dealing with this kind of situations? Maybe Miranda?
Yes. Well, in the teaching context, more than in my student context, I've seen the importance of the student voice, especially as you said, because we have students coming from different backgrounds, and students who don't have are not equipped with the knowledge or with the skills, to cope with academic integrity. So giving them an opportunity. I have had an experience where I had students who have voiced their concerns about this, and the fact that we gave the opportunity and we had them in a student focus group talking about this in the past, discussing these problems, just made the problem a whole, which actually was not even a problem, seem a lot more easier from the student point of view.
Right.
But this was an immediate kind of approach that we had back then, and I think that including students in the discussions we have with the management, with teachers, etc., and having them become one of the members of that discussion, equal members, is of paramount importance.
Fantastic. Anybody else wants to add to that? Dionysus?
Actually, I was very fortunate 2 years ago to participate in a program launched by my college and the American Embassy in Greece. The program was called the Education Unites. Can you hear me? I think I lost you for a moment.
Little bit, just a little bit, yes.
Should I repeat what I was saying?
So the project was with the American Embassy in Greece?
Yes, in collaboration with my college. The program was called Education Unites, and actually it was targeted towards refugees who came to Greece. These people were from very different backgrounds, some from Syria, some from other countries, all war-ravaged countries, actually. They were people from different levels of academia. Most of them were 18 years old and older, some were much older than that, but they all faced the same problem. They needed academic support. And actually what the college did was provide them some courses for free and the necessary academic support. I was one of the learning facilitators who actually helped facilitate these courses for them. And as you said, this problem with different cultural backgrounds, especially when it comes from people who are facing war or many different situations such as famine, etc. This is very important, and universities, colleges, and students should be vocal about supporting these people. We need to be there. We need to show the world that these people are in need of our help. Some actually ask for it. Some are not that courageous when it comes, because there is human dignity. We need to preserve that. We need to be careful when giving this kind of help. But we were there and we were actually very happy to support these people, and some of them actually became students here in Greece after that. They won some scholarships. Yes, they tried a lot, and they were successful at what they did, actually.
Fantastic.
And I'm friends with some of them.
And again, this shows why we need student champions to be in the forefront, because you guys will think of problems that not necessarily, will be at the forefront for us, because the world is changing, and it's changing very fast from year on year, like from generation, we consider generation to be 10, 12 years, but it's not that concept anymore, right? So exactly. And we did share some examples where, for instance, I know a university that has introduced camps as next level preparedness for schools, so that school students are prepared for the university life, right? Then in my own university, students asked for support once they, if they had faltered and if they had plagiarized. So sure, there was a formal process that was going on, but they wanted a support system for them to recover from it, to rehabilitate from it. So again, these are all fantastic initiatives that only happen because students are a part of that conversation, and students like you guys are coming forward. So we've got about, I think, maybe 10 more minutes. Sonia, do we want to continue or do we want to open up the floor for question answers?
Well, you can decide how to.
Okay, so we will continue on for a little bit more because I do have a couple more points I want to talk to them about.
Absolutely.
And then maybe we'll open it up. Okay, so at this point, what I do want to do is quickly, I have a link here for everyone, including the panelists, of course. It's a simple question. I'm asking you basically to describe what is a champion of integrity to you in two words, if you could. The link is there. If you guys could just take a moment. Again, you don't need to enroll or anything, and I will share the screen so that we can capture everyone's feedback. Okay, what is a champion of integrity? Just use 2 words. Nice. Upfront, inspiration, active, leader, honest. Okay, there we go. Open. Proactive. Okay. So the word leader seems to be what everybody is gravitating towards. Okay, good. Consciousness, understanding, open. Okay. All right, great. So, oh, we have some more. Good communicator, enthusiastic. Okay, relatable. Oh yeah, very important, right? Okay, so exactly this, what you guys have put, and this is everybody, right? Our panelists as well as our audience has put these words. This is why we need students as champions of integrity, right? Somebody who is relatable, somebody who is talking the same language as the rest of the students, somebody who looks like a leader, but at the same time is somebody who is very close to the rest of the student population. So this is why I kind of wanted to capture a few of those words. So now what I want to do is basically talk to you guys about how do you think students react when you approach them or when you do something that has to do with academic integrity. So it could be from the perspective of research, or it could be from the perspective of an awareness program or an event that you do. So Dionysus kind of touched upon this, and he said towards the beginning they didn't have a lot of response, but now they've managed 1,000 people to participate. So I think I don't think we are getting anywhere close to that anytime soon. So you guys have really outdone all of us in that. So bravo for that. How about Miranda? Are you able to unmute your mic? Okay, yes.
Could you please, I lost you for a moment, so could you please,
okay.
Yes, repeat.
Okay, so what I wanted to know was, how do you see students reacting, like other PhD students in your case, if and when you do talk about academic integrity?
Yeah, they see me as a guardian of truth. Yeah.
Oh,
well, in many ways, it's because it's about preaching the truth and being close to truth. This is how plagiarism is perceived in many ways. Relating to the sources of knowledge and saying, but is this work yours? And raising the question and but because we are all aware that in the 21st century, like, knowledge is more co-constructed.
Right.
It's about working together and constructing the knowledge together, and also the process of writing is about the rewriting. But when I refer to this, and I refer to the truth behind the let's say the stage which is offered to us, I am called as a guardian of truth.
Okay. Lima?
Okay, I would say like 2 ways. One thing is that when they heard that I'm doing thesis on the topic and the research, They didn't ask what academic integrity or plagiarism is, but they were more interested how to, where systems didn't find any matches or how to go around that
system.
Because,
Yeah.
for example, there are some problems with translations, and then they thought that, yeah, I can. Yeah. So I kind of didn't want to share the results with them because I knew that they will try to use them. And the other side is, yeah, they see me more on the teacher's side. For example, yesterday my friend said that, oh, his classmate got bad result because he copied the text from his bachelor to master's. But I said that, yeah, you cannot self-plagiarize yourself, and it's wrong. And tried to argue with me because, yeah, they try to just find the easiest way and still see us as the opponents or something like that.
Right. Okay. That's interesting. Arthur?
Since we hosted the event at our university for week of action against academic misconduct, all my friends came to know that I was the one hosting the event with my friends. So all of them came to me asking, okay, how did you get into this? Why are you doing this? And all of it. So I just had to explain to them the importance of why I'm doing it and why I think it's important that even they be a part of this. And from then on, I'm being honest. Very few people ask me, can you help me with this? Can you help me with that? Can you share your project with me? So yeah, it's in that way, but it's no way bad because everyone's learning to be more upfront, everyone's learning to be more prompt in their way they're doing work. So it's beneficial for all. And also, if I could go back to the last question, I'm sorry. I think Dionysus mentioned about that we need, the different cultures which we have in university. So I think that is a very important point to look at. The most important thing is international students. If we look at it, I've been doing research on that topic from some time. So I think that's also an important topic because when international students come into your university, it's a completely different atmosphere for them. And, for them to be well set in the atmosphere, for them to understand everything, I think the professors obviously do a great job in understanding their needs and helping them whenever needed. But I think they themselves could also try to be a little bit more open, talk to people, get to know each other. That's how they could increase their contacts and increase their approach and their ability to understand more things from different people. That's how culture is going to be a main point of this. So I think international students obviously play a major role, and it's going to be a really integral role as well if you look at it.
Fantastic. Absolutely. I will come back to that. Dionysus, about the student reactions to you being a champion of integrity on campus.
Yes, just like the previous speakers, they actually come to me and ask me, how did you get into this? And how can we help? Actually, some people come and suggest that they could help in some way or another. And actually, what I've tried to do this year is actually engage the governing bodies of our different societies, both academic and, hobby-related societies.
Right.
Because these are the students who are mostly engaged with anything in the campus. So if we manage to engage those people, then they can engage more people in turn. So this is what I'm trying to do right now. And this is going pretty well for now, I think.
Good. 1,000 people. So,
it's not easy for a single person, to approach 1,000 people or 3,000 people, which is the total number of students in my college. But yes, if you find the right people, the right contacts to engage, then you can engage a lot more people than you thought.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. So now let's go back to what Atharv said. A lot of universities do have international students, right? And like our university is, of course, majority of us are international or expatriate students here. Very few are local, and that dynamic might be different in other universities, but you still have that level of interaction with university students. How do you think international students see you guys as champions of integrity? Like, do you have them approaching you, or is it generally the local population? Let's start with, let's say, Miranda.
Yeah, it's generally the local population, maybe because of the lack of the international body in our student body in our university, because but it's more like local population that approaches me.
Okay. Laima?
Related to international students, I would say that personally, me haven't got any talks with them or something like that, only when they're asking some like direction to somewhere. But
Yes, exactly.
we have different subjects, different professors sometimes.
Right.
So
Okay, all right. Dionysus?
It's actually always the local populace that gives the most attention to such subjects. But, you know, before the pandemic, we used to have about 30% of the total number of students being international students,
National.
study abroad students. And some of them were actually engaged with the college initiatives. But right now, since we do not accept study abroad students, this percentage has gone to zero. So we're just going to wait and see what happens with the
Of
pandemic.
course.
And after that,
Yeah.
yeah.
Everything is now COVID situation. It's a whole different ballgame that we are looking at. We do have an interesting point that has come through in the chat from Stephen Go. This us versus them issue is what he's interested in. He says he works with student unions and student representatives like you guys. You guys are, of course, a significant part of the academic community who are always engaged and talking and coming forward and participating. But how do we reach the average student, the unengaged? So as students, do you ever come across students who are really like this, like they've pushed back and they're not interested, or or have you had experience getting them involved? Maybe who wants to go first? Maybe
I can go.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, I've seen this in some of my subjects when I had. I think a few international students were a part of the class, but usually you saw them excluded from the entire group who were studying in class. They used to be in one side of the class, sitting at the back, either typing in their notes or being on their laptop or doing something. But again, it was science that they weren't exactly involved with the discussions going on in class. So I think the point proven is something which we have to clearly work on, because if you look at from the international student point of view, they are completely new to what's going on around them. So we as recipients of them have to be more upfront and be more involved in making sure that they are the ones who understand more rather than the local students, because again, local students obviously will come to you, will ask you questions, will email you, but sometimes international students may find that difficult because they are not exactly sure how do they adapt to their new environment. And that's what, if we look at it, they form their own small groups when they're in universities. So again, it's a bit more harder to reach them. But if, for example, if they get in touch with someone, or if the faculty from their side puts them in touch with some of the students in class who are pretty active, who are very much involved in everything what's going in and around the subject or in the university, that's how we could get them to be engaged as well. And they themselves, like Dionysus said, the message passes on from people to people. That's how we can increase the awareness in it.
So this is something I'll throw at Dionysus. Even if it wasn't an international student, right? Like a local student that you say they approach you and stuff. If you have a group of students that are unengaged, even within the local population, do you have any experience of drawing them out, getting them involved in all of your activities?
Yes, I actually have. I knew some people, they were not exactly friends of mine. I knew them, and I knew that they were pretty talented in some things, in creative ways, let's say. And when the time came last year to do something about the promotion of academic integrity, I actually approached the students, even though I did not know them personally, and told them, this is the International Day of Action Against Contract Cheating. We want to do something. I know you have some very good skills related to creating things, doing creative things. So would you be interested in doing something for us? And they were like, okay, this sounds boring, but let's try. Let's see what we can do. And actually, by the end of the whole endeavor, they were pretty amazed at the work that they did, and they were very happy to support this year's International Day of Action as well. So basically, what I would suggest is to have your eyes open and your ears open and hear and see what people can achieve, their basic skill sets, and take advantage of them. Invite them to do something they like.
Right.
And maybe by the end of the day, they will become engaged.
This is something you can do as students, because we as teachers, we would not be interacting with them at that level, to know skills outside of a classroom, for instance, So in a classroom, yes, I can pick out who is a good speaker, who's good at thinking on their feet, who's good at researching, so on and so forth. But when you think about things like this, like I know this really exciting example somebody had shared with me once, where there was this student who'd always be in the student lounge playing the guitar. That's all the student ever did. Never bothered attending classes, just would sit and just be playing guitar. It's not like he is mixing with anybody else, right? But what this teacher did, she found out from somebody else that this is what the student was doing. And she said, oh, great, I need somebody to play the guitar, right? So she got the student from her class to go and approach him. Now, because it was a student approaching, he listened. He said, same thing with what you just shared, Dionysus. He said, yeah, this sounds boring. Why would I want to do that? And they said, no, please do it for me. My teacher's asking me, I'm stuck. They said, okay, so I will do this for you. And then he got hooked and he became such an integral part of that subject for that teacher. So I think, again, students are the key. You guys would know what this average student is all about and what really, like you said, what are their talents or what is it that they're really interested in. It could be something really so different from academic integrity, like they could be into network gaming, right? Or like I said, the guitar playing or things like that. And then finding ways to get that into the conversation and then having them get involved through that. Anybody else has an example like this to share about engaging students?
I think maybe another example that could be useful in this context is in Turkey, a lot of students use WhatsApp groups. Okay, so and even the most unengaged students, when they engage in WhatsApp, they kind of talk, share their opinions, and listen to. I mean, they follow the messages. This is the attitude, the general attitude, and it's true from 7 to whatever age of the learner is. From primary to university PhD level. So I think these are some of the. As a student, I have engaged. I have talked about academic integrity in these WhatsApp groups with my friends, doing PhD, and this has been very effective. It's more effective than when a teacher when a professor presents it in a class. And I think this is another way that we could engage the unengaged ones.
That's so interesting. I personally don't use WhatsApp, but in every class, I will always assign a student leader who has WhatsApp, and he or she is going to be my voice in their WhatsApp chat. Yeah. And this works. You're absolutely right, because WhatsApp is something they are looking at, right?
Yeah.
And they're and they're chatting and they're discussing, right? So they might bash the idea, but then they might start warming up to it because somebody will say, hey guys, look, we have to do it. So let's get serious and talk about it. And then everybody kind of like takes that seriously and they get involved. That's fantastic. You're right. Okay. I do have some more thing coming through. Let's just see. And maybe that it could be something they could do anonymously. Yeah. Okay. Good. Yes. Punishment, not a punishment, something they could put on their CV or resume if they wanted to. Yes, absolutely. So going along this same thread of idea, in terms of what happens when students have faltered, right? We talk about proactive. We want to be there. We want to raise the voice. We want to bring forward events and raise the concern and all of that, right? We want to talk about policies and procedures where we want students. But let's talk about now that last segment where a student has faltered and they have either cheated or contract cheated or plagiarized. And from student perspective, as student champions, what kind of support do you see students providing? Not just the university, but the students providing each other. Do you guys see that happening often? And what kind of support do you think they get from the community?
I think the first thing is that student to student can tell about the problem and explain the cause more honestly than you would do to the representative.
That's so interesting. Okay.
I've seen this as well. I mean, it happened because sometimes in our university, when we upload assignments, some professors give that grace period of, for example, if you submit your assessment once, if the plagiarism is high, if something could be done, you could upload it again, just so that, you kind of be safe from facing the plagiarism committee and academic misconduct academy. The committee. So, that's when the student to student approach happens. They approach their friends, they ask them, how could I do this? How could I do that? They get some advice and then they try to do better on their project and then they submit the assignment again. So then that's one of the effective things which happens.
Okay, so the proactiveness. So I think that starts again from the faculty though, because they have, instead of setting the text matching to just the final submission. They're allowing you to submit multiple times, right? And then that allows you to see the originality report and then check the match, where you have not done quotation right or where you've not done the paraphrasing right. So you see a lot of the students come forward and then help each other out on that front. Okay. Dionysus?
Usually students who know me and other people who work at SAS, the Student Academic Support Services that I mentioned, since they know that we are students like them, it is easier for them to approach us and tell us, I have this problem. I get a very high similarity report percentage. Can you help me with this? And this is something that also Aithar mentioned, that this is the proactive stage. We see it before it happens. So we are there to help them make this up, correct the plagiarism, make them paraphrase effectively. Or create the citations in a manner that is consistent with the style that they are using. It hasn't happened to me to face a person who has been caught contract cheating. So I don't know what could help, but I think that it would be nice to have a group of representatives, student representatives, to talk to that person, learn the reason why he or she contract cheated, and then help them understand this is wrong, and show them the way forward, and not stigmatize them.
And you're absolutely right. And you know what happens when a student faces a disciplinary committee or an action? They're already defensive, right? And once a person is defensive, it's so difficult to get through their psyche, to get them to understand where they may have gone wrong. So then, no matter how much we try, we may not be able to make that process very educative, right? No matter how sensitive we want to be and how much we want to support the student at the end of the day, we may not. And I think Jeffrey's put that up as a, do we really understand or know why students engage to begin with, right? And that's exactly what Dionysus, you just said, that if students talk to students, right? And that's where students will feel, yes, I can actually explain to you why I did what I did. And then you will actually understand the psychology behind why the student did what they did. And sometimes, even if something to us doesn't sound like an appropriate excuse, you might actually relate with that and understand that, and then you would be able to better present that idea for sure. Lima or Miranda, do you have anything to add to this point?
No, nothing different really. It's very similar because it's more about proactiveness. It's about using the plagiarism detectors and looking at ways on how to paraphrase in a better way and to do the work more efficiently.
Right. Lama?
I agree to all of that. Yeah.
Okay, all right. Okay, so we're almost towards the end. I just wanted one more thing that I did want to discuss with you guys was, so how do you think faculty or management sees student champions? Of course, we want student champions, right? We want students to be coming in front and doing the events for us. But how do you feel about the role that you guys are in, and how the universities respond? Are they responding in a manner where they're looking at you as just an means to an end, that we want to do an event, we want students, so let's bring students in? Or do you feel that universities genuinely realize the importance of having a student voice in there, and that's why you are doing what you're doing? I love the toughest one for the end, I think.
Yeah, I think that they, I just jumped here, but personally, I think that they realize the potential that we have as students, and this is why they want us to be active and to take an active role in this sense. And it's not just about being means to an end, really. This is not how I feel in my university. Çanakkale just makes me feel very sort of valuable in this sense. And it's been a two-way, let's say, communication of the feelings and the trust.
That's amazing. Lima?
Yeah, I think they say that it's easier to communicate peer-to-peer, and maybe it could be some kind of like portal from teacher to other students through those student champions. Because at the first place, in the beginning, all students think that it's only we're doing it because of, like, teacher said it's needed for professor. But when they see that other students are interested in that and see it correctly, then they start to think about it in a different way and accepting it more.
Yeah, absolutely right. Yes. Arthur?
I mean, yeah, obviously, the university sees it from some point of view that, we have someone from the student community to, increase the awareness and spread the message around. So, I mean, yeah, it's a very proactive approach, and I think it's the right way to go about it.
Genesis?
I believe that professors and faculty in my college actually honestly care about us, and they want our input in their conversations. And that is why they actually approach us. As I told you, Professor Morlatos actually approached me and invited me to help her with this endeavor. So this is a nice show of the truth behind what I'm saying. They really do care, and that is why they encourage us to do things.
Right. And I think as an international community as well, like for instance, NI introduced a student award this year. They wanted to recognize student champions. So I know a number of universities that have these initiatives where they don't just want you to do the work, but they want to recognize you for the work as well. It is, yes, it is to a larger extent because I think everybody realizes how important important a role you all play. What's so fascinating to me is, if you think about schools have head girl, head boys, prefects, and school class leader and corridor leaders, and they've got all of these roles that students get into, right? So at school level, we do understand how important the role of student champions are. For some reason, when it comes to university, because we are assuming everybody is now independent learners and matured and responsible, that we don't necessarily need those champions. But we're hoping that with more panels like this and having more champions like you guys coming forward, we are going to make sure that students are very much a part of that conversation. And we're not talking at you or around you or over you, but we're talking with you about the policies and the changes that need to come in the way we do assessments, the way we handle student cases, the way we do training. And hopefully, we are going to be looking at a very different conversation, maybe 1 year from now, even. Right? We are at 3:15 now. So I think I have another 15 minutes. So we can open up the panel for any question answers from the panel. Sonia?
Hi, there is a question in the Q&A. How do you tackle when your own best friends asking to show your work to be seen or to be copied? Are you not worried about victimization?
How interesting. So effectively, guys, the question is, if your friend is asking you, and could be your best friend, is asking you to share your assignment, how do you tackle that situation? How do you get yourself out of that situation? And if at all, would you be worried about being victimized?
Okay, I can start.
Yes,
First of all, I would try to help teacher to maybe explain it better or just ask questions to teacher more, even if I get the idea. Just if I see that others didn't get it, then I sometimes try to help them understand, but it takes my time as well, so it's tricky with that. But in the worst case, if I'm sending something, I only make a snippet. For example, they can see only input and output, but they cannot see the formula and some other things. So,
right.
And they cannot copy it straight away. They need to still do some work and something like that.
Right. Okay. All right. Anybody else? If you guys have an experience to share, how you would tackle
Yeah,
it?
I mean, similar to what I had said before, I mean, even though it's your best friend, you still want to think about the efforts you have put in, the work you have done, and just to not let anyone take that work without any due credit as such. So, just give them a nudge, try to tell them about things in a different way so that they could come to the same conclusion, but from their own perspective and their own way of thinking. So, I think that could help.
Right. Genesis, he's smiling.
I had a similar case. A friend of mine actually approached me and told me, I don't have much time, I need your help. Maybe you could show me your paper and I could get some ideas out of it. But I was like, no, this is not the right way to do this. And instead what I did was that I actually guided him towards finding the right sources. I told him, you can search that database, find those sources. That is a good author. Maybe you should check his research. And that actually helped a lot. And, he was a person that wanted to do some work. So he actually sat down and did it.
Okay.
Now, in other cases, no, it might be different, the conclusion, I mean. But yes, that's what I did.
Okay, Miranda?
Zinat, I think this starts from the primary school.
Yeah.
You know,
Oh, yes.
even for I think I was one of the students in primary school whose work wanted to be copied a lot, and you know, I wasn't even aware of this thing back then. But I think that as educators, we should start promoting this awareness since very early age, and then so that it doesn't become a case in the university. Because at the university, you know, as students, we shouldn't be faced with this, with you know, someone asking our work to be seen, or and
Uh,
if it is so, yes, as Dionysus said, you know, we should lead and guide them towards, you know, finding the right resources, and you know, to see to find the tools also to work on them and to improve their paraphrasing skills, or
mhm,
you know,
mhm.
writing skills in general.
It's so interesting, isn't it, what you said? Because we do want to help friends when somebody comes and
Yes.
asks us for help, right? But it's such a sticky situation because, especially as champions, you know what where the line is. You know, the line is very clear to you guys because of the work that you're doing and you've been involved in. And then when a situation like that happens, and I do feel like maybe culturally also, because I do know certain students from certain cultures, they'll come and say, Miss, I can't say no when somebody asks. What am I supposed to do? They ask me for the project. I can't say no, right? Because they've been taught you should never say no, and all of those things go in. So it is difficult, and I think in a lot of ways the way we handle, training sessions for students, I think that's where the university needs to be a little bit more proactive and bring in those training sessions, not just talk about academic integrity and policies, but what happens when a friend asks you to share your assignment. How do you work through that, right? So I think what you guys have said is really great, that you don't really share the work, but you kind of share how they should get about doing the work. And a lot of times, if you keep being, if you're consistent with the answer, eventually students get the message that, okay, she's not going to give me the answer, or he's not going to give me the answer, so I might as well not bother asking that person the answer anymore. Okay, any other questions, Sonia from the panel?
No, but you're welcome to type then in the chat. I would like to comment. What was very inspirational to me actually is that all of you students have mentioned the role of teachers as role models. So I know there are many other teachers listening to you right now, and we can get that as a homework, I think, to work the importance of us being interested and role models. I think that was a very good, something that we as teachers can take with us from you. So thank you for that.
I think you're absolutely right. I mean, it was so heartening to hear each of them talk about it. Trust me, this was not coached. I didn't know they were going to talk about their inspirations. And it was really heartwarming to hear, because a lot of times, of course, we want to encourage students. We want to push students to the forefront. And students should stand up and take ownership of their achievements. And this is something I was telling you guys as well, that you will have to talk about yourselves, because we want you to learn to talk about yourselves from the get-go. A skill a lot of people don't push you to learn, but something that is so important. I'm learning that from Sonia, by the way. She's been my mentor about it. So it is fantastic to see that the role the teachers have played in making you guys the champions that you guys are, right? Or not making in that sense of the word, but inspiring you to be the champions that you guys are. And I think it is so important. You can't just have a champion. There's a lot of work that goes behind what you see in front. We want students to be in up front, but at the same time, we do know we need the teachers there to be guiding them and helping them as well, and directing you guys. So that's absolutely right, Sonia.
So do we have any more questions from the floor?
I can add something to the
Yes.
teachers, because sometimes it starts from the teachers, either the white or the dark side, because we have had some teachers even we needed to do the coursework for 30 pages. And then when we submitted to teacher, she just opened 2 places and just gave the mark. She even didn't read it. And it really motivated others to do it correctly. They just copied text from Wikipedia, submitted, and get 8 or 9. So,
wow,
and,
there you go. So there are both ends to that spectrum. In fact, there was something I did want to ask you guys. I'm sure as students, you guys would have seen others either plagiarizing or contract cheating or engaging in some kind of misconduct. And like you said, getting away with it and getting the marks. How do generally students react when they know? Because usually students know who's doing it and who's not doing it in classroom, right? How do students feel and react when something like that happens and that student walks away with like a really good grade? Other?
I mean, the general reaction is just so that, they score well in it. I mean, at the end, that's the whole point of, getting a high grade, that you walk out with this thought in your mind that, okay, I've done this, no matter what way I've done it, but I'm going to come out with a good result in the end. So I think they look at the end result more than the road which they need to take for getting that result. And
So
I mean,
how would you feel as an academic integrity champion in that class if that student walked away with, let's say, a distinction or a higher distinction in the subject that you worked so hard and probably got the same mark?
I mean, yeah, it's obviously a little bit disheartening because, you actually compare the amount of work which both of you have done, the amount of time you all have put. So, I mean, it's obviously going to be demotivating to you in some point that, okay, others have got more. And if, for example, if I have helped him do well in his and I haven't got that good of a grade. So, I mean, that's obviously demotivating. But again, it's depending on us how we approach it and how we actually go about doing it. So, yeah.
So maybe Dionysus, do you hear conversation around something like this where people say, yes, that person plagiarized and still got good grades? Do you hear frustration in those conversations, or do you hear, no, that's okay, maybe next time we should be doing it?
Dr. Khan, could you please repeat the question,
Okay.
because I lost you?
Okay. So basically what I was asking is, do you hear conversations around if like a student has, let's say, plagiarized in an assignment, right, and really got good grades? So do you see how other students maybe react to that with frustration or with hope that maybe next time we will do this?
Actually, most of the students that I've heard speaking about this, is the first feeling that they got was to be furious, actually, and be very angry. Both with the student that did this and with the professor who actually did not discover the truth.
Yeah.
But students who are actually working on their own and they're doing the work that they should do and actually getting a good grade, actually this feeling of rage subsides with time, because they feel like, I did this with my own in my own capacity. I did not contract cheat, I did not copy this from anyone else, and I am happy with my results. That student who did this has actually learned nothing. So in the long term, I would be more successful if a challenge arises, because I have the necessary knowledge.
Right. Miranda?
What happens? Well, students get angry, first of all. They get angry when this happens, and it becomes a bad sort of model for them, a model that they will want to do, because not everyone is willing to put a lot of effort into something where with little effort you can get the most. So it's in human nature. So unfortunately, yes, we've seen cases like this, and it's usually provokes the bad things.
Laima?
I would say the most they see it as an easy way to pass the subject.
Yeah.
But it depends. If all classmates did it, then it's okay. But if there are some who did it hard way and they're not afraid to talk, then they will just go to talk with a teacher. Or we have a great system that we evaluate each teacher each semester, and after that, dean and faculty members review it, and
Yeah.
they talk with some professors, and they might change some professors based on that as well. So it should motivate them to do the work better.
All right, so we will wrap up. So in 30 seconds, as student champions, your role and including students in this conversation, what is your take? I'll start with Miranda. 30 seconds.
My take.
Yes.
Well, my take is, about promoting the right kind of attitude and the proactiveness as students we need to take towards it. And my take is also that we should voice our opinions, we should voice our concerns in all platforms possible. And if there are no platforms like this, we should promote them. And we are and also it's not something we're doing. We should remind ourselves it's not something we're doing for ourselves, for just our own self, but also for the future of our societies and globally as responsible global citizens who are investing into it.
Thank you. Laima?
Okay, takeaway for me is that universities should organize such events, as you mentioned, the debate with students based on policies, or creating some videos or other materials, because then they actually can get involved in the process. They can understand why people care about academic integrity so much, and they may start to care about it more as well.
Awesome. Athar?
For me, I mean, it would be promoting it and spreading the awareness in such a way that it sticks with the students and they do not, let go of it in any way. Like some of the things we do, be it our hobbies, be it, sleeping a lot when you're tired or something. So it sticks with them in such a way that, they are compelled to do it, but then they feel good about it, not feel compelled to do and then feel, regret about it. So, yeah.
Dionysus?
I would say that colleges and university very, very careful. Can you hear me?
Yes. Now
yes.
We can hear you.
Should be very careful and also approach the student leaders that arise in their respective campuses. Tell them that we are there with you. Let us promote this. Let us teach honesty, trust, fairness, respect, responsibility, and give them the necessary resources to have the courage to act and,
Right.
act proactively. And even if this is not enough, make the students be vocal, talk to their fellow classmates who did this, help them get back on their feet, and basically stop this from happening eventually.
Awesome. That's an awesome conclusion. I don't think I could put it any better. With that, I want to really thank each of you for taking the time to join us today and be so candid and so courageous, and be the champions that you guys are, and showing us that what student champions can really do, from getting 1,000 people to having, facing your friends and telling them no. I think it takes a lot of guts and courage. And I think you guys are really showing us how it's done. So thank you so much, everyone. And of course, thank you, Sonia, for the space, to NI and Uppsala University for, of course, giving us the chance and making us the first to go this week and telling us, students, you guys are for sure important. Thank you.
Thank you from me as well. And it was really a wonderful conversation, as people are also writing in the chat and in other channels. I also would like all of you to invite you to join us. We have webinars tomorrow, a webinar about the borderline of plagiarism. On Thursday, we will have a teacher panel. And on Friday, building your own ethical behaviors in medical research. So please join us on these webinars as well. It's at 12 Stockholm time because it's Uppsala. So for 3 more lunch webinars. And thank you. It was a wonderful start of this week, European Academic Integrity Week. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you,
Thank
everyone.
you. Bye.